Welcome to the How of Business with your host, Henry Lopez, the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your small business. And now, here is your host.
Welcome to this episode of the How of Business. This is Henry Lopez, and my guest today is Daniel Feliciano. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this conversation. Daniel is with me today to share a bit of his inspiring entrepreneur journey, and then more specifically, his experience with launching and growing Clotheslyne. Clotheslyne is transforming the laundry industry through a unique app-based two-sided marketplace for laundry. And so their mission is simply to simplify laundry chores by connecting customers, people who need their laundry done, like us, with local gig workers for convenient, reliable service. And we'll get more into what this means and how it works. And I already noticed I have a typo in my notes. Clotheslyne is spelled clothes, Lyne, right, Daniel?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, you can't have a tech startup without writing something incorrectly.
Putting a vowel where a consonant belongs, or dropping a letter or something like that. That's hip.
Right. There's some kind of symbol in place of a letter. I don't know, but it's like mandatory in the tech startup world.
Of course it is. Of course it is. So I'll mention that multiple times, but it's Clotheslyne, Lyne. Fascinating business that we're going to get into. But if you want to get more information about the How of Business, including the show notes for this page, and there is where you're going to find a discount code that we're going to share, that Daniel's going to share. So be sure to go to the show notes page for this episode at thehowofbusiness.com. There you can also learn more about my one-on-one and group coaching programs. And also, wherever you're listening to this episode, I encourage you to please subscribe so you don't miss any future new episodes. So let me give you a little bit more about Daniel. Daniel Feliciano is the CEO of Clotheslyne. And again, Clotheslyne is really a pioneering gig economy company offering on-demand laundry service in 8 states and growing. It might even be beyond that as we speak, but growing fast. And Daniel has an extensive operations and entrepreneurship background, having previously run a residential and commercial painting business in the Hudson Valley in New York, upstate New York, where he lives. And he was previously the head of aircraft services at Royal Dutch Shell. And he was is a former U.S. Marine Corps major and an aviation logistics expert, and was a CH-53E helicopter pilot. Daniel's leadership style is shaped by his diverse background, as you might well imagine, from the discipline and strategic mindset fostered in his military service to the dynamic, innovative approach required in the startup world. He believes in empowering teams, fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity, and leading by example. He's also big on helping other entrepreneurs get their businesses launched. He lives, as I mentioned, in the Orange County, New York area. Once again, Daniel Feliciano, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And actually, we're in 9 states now because we just opened up in the Daytona, Florida area.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I actually did a podcast with a former Marine pilot who is in the Daytona, Florida region. And he was like, hey, man, this would be great in my neighborhood. And because our business model is so nimble, we started it up and it's been going for a month and it's working. So yeah.
We need to talk to you about bringing it to the Port St. Lucie Stewart area. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest part is, starting a business in a different state. So now that's done in Florida,
done.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to it because I'm excited to try it. It's one of these areas we'll get into a moment here describing it, that, like we have somebody that comes in and cleans the house. And we used to have way back somebody who would do the laundry as well, but that's not as easy to find. But again, in New York, I was just mentioning before we started recording that I spent some time in Manhattan the last week and a half visiting my daughter. And of course, there, the drop off, wash and fold is a very common service, right?
Yeah.
But for us in more suburban or other parts of the country, it really doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's really the pain point that we solved. I mean, we used to have a motto that we were Manhattan level laundry outsourcing, and that really resonates with people in New York, but it didn't really resonate outside of New York on how easy it is to actually outsource your laundry in Manhattan or in like some of the boroughs of Manhattan.
Hmm.
So we had to kind of revolutionize that because laundry is a tricky thing, and getting people to understand that it's just as easy to outsource your laundry as it is to outsource the guy who mows your lawn, um, needed to be a little more universal.
Absolutely. No. All right. We're going to dive into that, but I get so excited. I wanted to start talking about it, but let's take a step back and understand a little bit more about your interesting journey. As I mentioned, obviously in the bio, you served in the Marines, and then you worked for several different companies, as I mentioned. But what I'm curious, from an entrepreneurial perspective, if you think back to when you were a Marine, did you have aspirations for starting your own business then?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the entrepreneurial spirit has been in me since I was even younger than that. So I mean, I started working out of necessity in New York when I was 12. So back then, because I'm old, we were able to be paper boys. And so I actually started working before you were legally able to have a job. I had to go to like the town center and get a special permit to
Mm,
have this job. But we needed it with my family. Like we just didn't have the money for the things that you need when you're growing up, sports stuff, that kind of stuff. So I had to start a job. And paper route is basically the initial entrepreneurial job for a kid, right? You have to
yep.
manage everything yourself, figure out how you're going to deliver these newspapers, how you're going to collect money. And so it all kind of started there. I started solving business problems when I was 12 years old, and I haven't stopped solving business problems since then. And so it's kind of a blessing and a curse. But I carried that through. And then in the Marine Corps, I was a helicopter pilot. And I tell everybody this, when you're in the Marine Corps, there's only two types of jobs. There's infantry, and those guys are out there fighting the fight, and then there's everything else that supports the infantry. And so as a helicopter pilot, my main goal was to support the infantry. And that means that I needed to have my helicopter and the stuff that I was carrying in my helicopter at a certain point on the earth at the right time with the right stuff so I could support those Marines that were on the front line.
Mm,
And generally, the way the Marine Corps handles that is they're like, hey, listen, here's 15,000 pounds of gear. It needs to go to the Marines, and this is where they are. And there's some enemy there that are going to shoot at you, but you need to figure it out. And so that's what you do. You figure out how to get from here to there and get your stuff on target, on time, so that those Marines can be safe and use the stuff that you are delivering. And so, even though you're in a very structured environment, you're still very much solving problems and at like a very extremely high risk
right.
scenario. And so then when you go in the business world, there are really no scenarios that are more high risk than that. And so it
Right.
allows you to have a level of comfort in a world that is unsettled because you know you've probably done the most unsettled thing you're ever going to have to do.
You've made decisions in that environment that really meant potentially your life and the life of others. So making a business decision is nowhere near as life threatening, is it?
Yeah, exactly. If you can live and survive and actually do well in an environment like that, then when you get out, it really kind of lends yourself to being able to perform well across all kinds of environments and in all types of situations. And so that set me up for a successful world like lifestyle in the business world, where I left the Marine Corps and I went and worked at Shell, which is again another major corporation, lots of processes, lots of policies. But even within businesses like that, if you can find ways to solve problems that may give a solution for your boss and your boss's boss, that's outside of the box, then you could be super successful. And I found a lot of success at Shell doing that, just basically solving problems, not really allowing the situation to overrun me and to cause me stress. And then just kind of keep fostering forward and solving problems for the people that I supported, my bosses and my boss's bosses. And then that's how I found a lot of success there in the business world as well.
I'd like to explore this for a moment, to this concept, because I have observed this. We've also talked about it several times since I've had various guests talking about some of the challenges and opportunities of servicemen and women transitioning into business ownership. One of the things that I have observed firsthand, I'm generalizing here though, is because you come from that very structured environment, in business now you have to make all the decisions, right? There isn't somebody else giving you orders. What advice do you give to other servicemen and women that are making that transition on that and other pieces of advice that you give them on what translates and what is very different that they have to develop a new skill set in?
Yeah, so the one thing that I give them, which is an encouragement to continue to be problem solvers at multiple levels, right? To play chess in multiple dimensions. And one of the things that you have to learn, especially combat veterans who are coming out of the military now, they're retiring, they're senior enlisted or they're senior officers, is they've been playing chess on multiple dimensions for a very long time. And so their brains are going to be very sharp and they're going to be very quick at what they do, and they're going to be able to solve problems usually a lot faster than everybody else in the room just because they've been forced to do that for a very long time. And so I always encourage them to continue to play chess at different dimensions, continue to solve problems quickly, and then implement those solutions with a mindset towards like, how am I solving this problem for myself and also for my organization, right? So solve your problem, but also solve your boss's problem and your boss's problem. And if you can do that, you'll be super successful. The one thing that I caution them at is speed sometimes creates enemies in the corporate world. So what happens is somebody has a job that they've been doing for a very long time, 20, 30 years at a big major corporation. And if you come in and you shake that up too quickly, people start to get nervous, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
start worrying about their job and whether or not they're going to be replaced or if this solution is going to somehow make them obsolete. And so while you're solving problems for you and your boss, you also need to be creating bridges between the people who have been there for a long time, because they are the people who have the corporate knowledge that are going to allow you to implement the solutions that you come up with. And so while you may be an innovator because everything's new and exciting, they're the implementation pieces. And so
Yeah.
you have to motivate them to move in the same direction that you're moving in. And so don't get frustrated when you can't move as quickly as you want. Still come up with the solutions and then work through the channels that are available to you to implement those solutions. So it's
How
a
does that
balancing.
translate though then when you start your own business?
Yeah, so when you start your own business, it's still the same, except you don't have the foundation of that corporate knowledge, right? So that corporate knowledge can be both positive and negative, right? So it can be positive in that you can ask people, hey, how does this work? How did we do this in the past? And can we do it this other way, right? And somebody will give you an answer. When you start your own business, that doesn't exist. And so you don't have to deal with that barrier of somebody saying, "Oh, we tried this already and it doesn't work," and then you run into that situation. You never run into that situation when you start your own business, but every single decision you have to make yourself. Every um, policy, every process is your own, and that means there's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of times where you think you know the right answer and it's absolutely not the right answer, and you're going to have to clean up that mess. And when you start your own business, half the time you're doing something great and half the time you are cleaning up a mess that you made.
Yeah.
And so you have to clean it up.
Right. Okay, let's move forward there. You started your first business was a painting company, commercial and residential, called Matte and Lacquer Painting, if I got it correctly. You did that successfully. What happens then that brings you this idea of I guess revolutionizing, really to a big extent, the laundry industry?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing about entrepreneurialism is that there's only one direction, and that's forward. You're constantly coming up with new ideas and you're doing new things. There's a reason why the term serial entrepreneur exists, because you come up with this idea, you implement it, you drive it to a level of success, and then it's time to move on to the next thing. I mean, you could look at Mark Cuban or Elon Musk or whatever. And it just is the way that your mind is set, that after you reach a level of success within a certain area, now it's time to start challenging yourself again. And so that's what ended up happening with us.
And when you were doing that, did you kind of go through an ideation phase to see what was that next thing, or did it come to you and then the timing was good? How did you go about landing on the idea for Clotheslyne?
Yeah, so I was in the middle of kind of flushing out the end of like the processes and policies. We were developing some really good relationships within Matt Lacker, and so at the time, my co-founder, who was a very young kid, he's 23 years old, he was in college, and we were out on a project, and he worked for me in the summers, and then also as like a project manager in his time off, and he was like, Dan, I got this great idea for a new idea for laundry. He's like, when I'm up at school, the girls do my laundry for me for like $5 a load. And I was like, I don't know. Camden is my co-founder's name. And I was like, yeah, Cam, I'm not sure that that's a viable economic business. I think there might be some ulterior motives going on here.
Little
But I said,
bubble situation there, let's say.
yeah, exactly. So, and if you met the kid, you would see why. He's like
Yeah.
6'3", 200 pounds. He's
There's a lot of things
handsome.
being done for him that
Yeah, he's
maybe you and I can't get done.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I said, but let's look at it, right? Let's run the numbers. And so I'm a big research guy. I've spent a lot of my time making sure that I'm making good decisions by understanding the environment that I'm in, understanding what the threats are. And so we spent about a year uh, flushing out this concept, this idea. What does it look like? What do the economics look like? What's the solution both from the supplier side and from the customer side? And is there a model that can take us to profitability? And after that year of both doing the research and then also building up the software that would support it, we were finally able to launch it and understand that we could be successful in this space, um, and continue to move the company on to profitability within a couple of years of launch.
You're profitable now.
No, God, no. I wish we were profitable now. We're about 6 months away though, so that's actually really good. So we've only been in operation for 24 months, and we're 6 months away from profitability, which
You've
is
been
good.
reinvesting what it's been generating, or
Oh
has it
yeah,
still? Yeah.
every dollar goes into the company. So
Mhm.
we've raised money from venture capital firms. We are a Techstars portfolio company, and then we've raised money, from our friends and family. Both Cam and I invested our own money, and then every dollar that comes into the company goes into continuing to push the company forward. And so Cam and I work on paupers wages right now, and with our eye towards, hey, how do we continue to move this thing towards a point where we become profitable, and then once we become profitable, how do we sustain profitability?
How did you fund the initial round? Was that your money and friends and
Yeah,
family?
yeah, it was the original development. The first year of operations was just me self-funding it. And then we raised a small round from our friends and family. And then after that, we raised a couple rounds from different venture capitalists. So overall, we've raised a few $100,000 to put this thing into operation.
First round was equity investment as well, or was it just loans?
No equity. We haven't taken out any loans. We've exchanged equity for capital, and that's kind of been our model to try to minimize our exposure to debt, for better or worse. That's kind of been the way that we've kind of moved forward. I think at some point we'll have to do some kind of a debt mechanism while we're expanding nationally. But up until this point, we've been able to do everything really, really lean. So
Yeah,
we haven't needed a whole lot of money to
got
to
it.
do what we're trying to do.
All right, so let's take a step back. I explained it and introduced it, but give me the elevator pitches, if you will. What is this? I should have started with that, but what is this? Give me more detail on how this works.
So yeah, I mean, you summed it up really well. Clothesline is basically the care.com or the rover.com of the laundry industry. We allow customers to outsource their laundry demands to local people in their community who pick up the laundry from the customer's house, bring it back to their own house, utilize their own washer and dryer, and then return the laundry within 24 to 48 hours. And so, one of the pain points that you alluded to earlier was in Manhattan, where if you walk out of your apartment complex, on every single block there's a laundromat.
Right.
But throughout the entire rest of the United States, there's only 18,000 laundromats, and
That's
only a
crazy.
portion of them do pickup and delivery, right? Almost all of them do wash and fold as kind of like a side hustle within the thing, within
Yep.
the laundromat, but almost none of them do pickup and delivery. And so outsourcing your laundry has just not been an option for the rest of the country, even though doing laundry is the second least favorite chore in the entire United States, right after doing the dishes. And there's not really anything I can do about that.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, but I can do something about laundry because there's 50 million washing machines in the United States, and almost none of them are monetized right now. And most people only use about 50% of the capacity of their laundry machine before they swap it out for a new one. So what we're trying to do is take that 50% that's being wasted and monetize it for those people who are willing to do laundry as a alternative source of income.
I mean, I can
And
compare this in that regard to Uber, me using my car when I'm not needing it for something else to pick up Uber riders, right? There's a similarity there. Is that fair?
there's a similarity in that helps people draw an understanding of like the opportunity within the gig, but there is a vast chasm between how our people are making money and how people on Uber are making money. And we very specifically try to avoid a comparison between us and Uber. Our
You compare yourself
clothesliners,
more to Airbnb as maybe a closer comparison then?
yeah, or care.com. And so what we're really doing is we're allowing people to start their own little kind of business on our platform. And so whereas Uber does everything anonymized, right? You never know who your person's going to be ever again. They don't know who you are, and they try to keep it that way. We actually encourage connections between our customers and our clothesliners, because we want our clothesliners to have this a feeling that they are somebody on our platform, and that the service that they're providing is important to our customers, and it is equitable for them, for the service providers. And so we try to encourage our clothesliners to build a little book of business, right? Get 3 or 4 or 5 customers that come back every single week and that you can create a relationship with. And it's a great example that you used is like your cleaning lady, right? So we use that example all the time. The first time your cleaning lady comes to your house, she's the cleaning lady. The next time she has a name, maybe her name is Barbara. By the third time she comes, you know how many kids she have, you're exchanging birthday presents. There's that kind of relationship. And I think that's super important when you're talking about laundry, because laundry
It's very
is
personal, yeah.
yeah, it's incredibly personal, right? It is so intimate is the word that we generally use. I mean, people have strong, virile feelings about their laundry. And so the only way to get over some of those feelings is to make sure that there's trust between the customer and the clothesliner. And I'm more concerned with the customer and clothesliner having strong ties of trust than I am worried about the clothesliner stealing a customer from my platform, which
Yeah,
is,
so let's talk about that because that's immediately where my head was going from a
yeah,
business perspective. Because unlike the cleaning lady, she's an employee of the company that I have hired, unless I go independent, obviously.
yeah,
And she is going to continue, he or she is going to continue as an employee because they're sending her to multiple clients, right? But what keeps me on the platform, both sides, me as the customer, and let's say it's Peter who's doing the laundry for me, what keeps him on the platform?
yeah. So it's the same thing that keeps everybody on the platform. It's that trust in the platform, right? So the clothesliners, they trust that we are providing them with a equitable form of alternative income, right? They trust that customers are going to come in and they will be offered to them for their choosing of whether they want to work with those people or not work with those people. And that at the end of doing every single one of their washes, that they're going to get paid um, a proportion of the payment that is fair to them. And that we are going to watch out for them and take care of them if there's ever a situation with a customer, and they are going to watch out for us and take care of us by providing a good service. On the flip side of that, the customers also put their trust in us to make sure that their laundry is done the way that they want it to be done. And if there's an issue or a problem, then they know they can fall back on us to solve that problem. And so really that's what keeps everybody on the platform. Do I think that people go off the platform? Sure. I'm sure that they do, but our price is such that our clothesliners are not going to really be able to offer the service for much less than what we're already offering it at.
Right.
And so let's say we offer our service at $1 a pound with pickup and delivery. A clothesliner would then have to offer it for less than that. And now a clothesliner would be like, okay, it's worth it for me to save 20 cents a pound. Let's say they charge 80 cents, but lose all of the insurance that we provide, lose the customer support that we provide, lose the ability to have oversight on their order. Like all of that stuff goes away for 20 cents a pound, and most customers don't think that that's worth it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
that makes sense.
that's really where we do it. We just create this environment where everybody is transparent and everybody has somebody that they can reach out to on both sides, and then that we make sure that we are fair and honest with everybody. And so it sounds a little kumbaya-ish, but it really is the way that great companies are made. Like if you look across the board at all the great companies, it's because they all believe in the people that are servicing those companies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's what I believe in.
And
That's
then
what we
if for
believe
some
in.
individual it makes sense, and then so be it. Great for them, right? But
Yeah,
the majority of people are going to continue. What you're counting on is that both sides are going to continue to see value through transacting on the platform. Yeah.
yeah.
One point of clarification that I understand, obviously, the individual who owns a washing machine and a dryer, and they're going to provide this service, but can it also be a laundromat owner that plugs in here as a provider, or no?
No, we don't
No.
allow
Okay.
laundromats onto
All
the
right. That's what I
platform.
wasn't sure of. So these are all individuals who own a washer and dryer, and then who does the pickup and delivery?
The clothesliner does. So the clothesliner, once they accept an order, owns the entire life cycle of that order. So from pickup to wash, fold, and then deliver is all done by the same person.
Got it. This is Henry Lopez, briefly pausing this episode to invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation with me. I welcome the opportunity to chat with you about your business plans and offer the guidance and accountability that we all need to achieve success. As an experienced small business owner myself, I understand the challenges you're experiencing, and often it's about helping you ask the right questions to help you make progress towards achieving your goals. Whether it's getting started with your first business or growing and maybe exiting your existing small business, I can help you get there. To find out more about my business coaching services and to schedule your free coaching consultation, please visit thehowofbusiness.com. Take that next step today towards finally realizing your business ownership dreams. I look forward to speaking with you soon. So when you go into a new market, there's some staffing from an administrative perspective, but you're not having to hire drivers or implement that's logistics of that. You are, and that's another question I have, because this is common with any marketplace. I call it, how do you prime it, right? How do you make sure you draw enough clients, but then enough providers at the same time? How do you overcome that challenge? It applies to other types of businesses that have this same, trying to connect one side with the other. Am I asking that clearly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the age old debate in the marketplace industry is, do you start with the supplier? Do you start
Hmm.
with the demand? We
Right.
always start with the supply. And actually supply for us is incredibly efficient to gather. We are offering a gig opportunity to a group of people that previous to now have not had an opportunity in the gig environment, even though they've been reading about the gig environment for a
Right.
long time. And
Right.
that's women.
Hmm.
80% of our clothesliners are women. Most women are not going to go out and be an Uber driver.
Hmm.
Most of our women are moms. They're either single moms or they're moms with families. And so going out and doing door dashing or grocery shopping for somebody else doesn't make any sense. But now here's an opportunity for them to make some extra money at inside their own house on a time frame that works for them so that they're still at home with their family when they need to be, but they have this opportunity to make money on the side. And that has not been an option for a lot of people for a long time. And so when we open a new market, generally it only takes us about 2 weeks to find our first sets of clothesliners. And then once we have a number that's like commensurate with the demographics that we're offering to, like the size of our market, if you will, then we shut down the supply side. So we don't have this open model. Uber has this open model where anybody who can
Correct. Yeah.
pass the test and has a driver's license can be on board. We don't do that. So as part of that trust that we build with our clothesliners, we only bring enough clothesliners on to service the customers that we have, which allows then our clothesliners to build that little book of business that
I
we're
see.
talking about,
I
right?
see. And they're not competing against a same slice of a pie
Yeah,
across more and more clothesliners. Yeah.
that's right. An endless amount of competition, right? So
Mhm.
we let clothesliners build a book, we bring on customers, and as more customers come on board, we have a formula that says, okay, we need to bring on more clothesliners now.
Mhm.
But we always start there. It takes us a couple weeks. That's why I said we opened up in Daytona. So just a month ago, when you and I first started talking about, in that time we were able to open Daytona because it only takes us a couple weeks to start finding our supply. Once we bring our supply on, we train them, we have them do sample tests. We make sure that they take exams. They all do background checks, right? FBI background checks. And then once they're ready to go and they're all set up, then we start looking for customers, and we bring customers on and pair them up with our clothesliners.
What was the first market that you opened in?
It was our own market here, is
Orange
Orange
County.
County, New
Yeah.
York, right? So I mean, that's where we did our MVP, our original app, which we loved, like we absolutely thought was the greatest thing ever. And now when we look back on it, you slap your forehead and you're like, oh my God, what were we thinking?
Did
Um,
did you take though that for that reason an MVP approach to the app, or would you have done it even slimmer to get it out and get validation?
I would have done it even more slim. I would have done it probably web-based in Orange County and not and still continued to build an app-based product because that's what people expect. But I probably would have done Orange County web-based, tested the model out, done something very simple, and then used the lessons that we learned there to continue to build the app. But I had had some experience in building apps already, and so I was pretty comfortable with the process, thinking through the solution, making sure that we had all the options available for our customers. And then, I mean, everybody's got an MVP at some point, and so
Yeah.
that was our MVP. And now we're on to version A, which we again love, but we'll have version B probably 2 years from now, and we'll look back at version A and say, what were we thinking, you know?
No, no doubt, no doubt. But the key takeaway there that's so important is that the ultimate validator or judge on that is the consumer, right? So the sooner you get it out there is what really matters when they tell you what features and functions they like and want.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do weekly calls with customers. So we have over 1,500 active customers. We have over 7,000 profiles on the app. And so we call customers every single week and we ask them, what do you think what do you think about the service? Obviously the gold level feedback we're looking for is somebody who downloaded the app and didn't make a purchase, because then you can try to really understand, well, what was the disconnect? Those are obviously a lot harder to get, but we also still contact, you know, customers who have been with us for a long time, and customers, every single new customer gets a phone call. So we try to understand what their thought process is, and what could have gone better, what went worse, and then try to fix those things as we continue to move forward.
The revenue model you've alluded to, you take a portion of that fee that you charge the consumer, and that's how you monetize this?
Yeah, we monetize it through a take rate. It's depending on the type of order that goes out. And then based on that, we take that amount that covers, all of our administration and our staffing, which is really just me and my co-founder, a marketing person named Olivia, and our back-end engineer. And then the clothesliner gets the rest. And so
Wow.
they're able to.
Extremely lean operation then.
It's crazy. We've gone to eight states, 9 states now. Within those 9 states, we're in about 30 markets. We do over 100 orders a day, and it's just me and my co-founder, basically. I
Do you
mean,
leverage virtual assistants for some of the admin, or
we have
how?
two virtual assistants that do some data entry, and they answer chat queries from customers. So we have two virtual assistants that are on our staff as well, that are kind of like frontline help.
Amazing. The pricing model, if I got it right from the website, I can do a one-time order, or there's also a subscription plan or various subscription plans, correct?
Correct, yeah. And then we have a business to business model as well. That is for small businesses, small to medium sized businesses, short-term rental operators, those kind of things.
Oh, okay.
And we're able to do custom ordering and custom pricing for customers like that as well.
Okay, so like if I need my sheets and linens and towels done, you're talking about there, or maybe uniforms, is that what we're talking about, business to business, or?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, what we see is businesses that have just enough laundry that the owner's doing it themselves, or maybe they
Right.
started outsourcing it to a major laundry factory, but it's not really economical for them.
Hmm.
And so we're talking, small restaurants where you maybe have some uniforms or some aprons to. We do some boutique hotels here in the Hudson Valley area
I
where
see.
we're servicing up to 30 rooms a week. And the way we do that is we find some clothesliners, super clothesliners, we call them, that are willing to do bigger orders, and then we're able to match them up with these businesses. So
I
yeah, I
could even
mean,
see that being a selling point, right? If for a boutique hotel, if they wanted to, if they thought it was on brand to promote how this is not being sent off to some big giant washing places, being done by individuals who care about it, who are going to give it that level of attention.
yeah, and local people, right? So I
Right,
mean,
local
most
people,
boutique
exactly. So
hotels
all
are
helping
all
the
about,
economy.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they're all about supporting the local economics, the economy of the local area, especially boutique hotels. And so when you start bringing community members into that service, it's a value add.
So one last technical question: the detergents that the clothesliners use, do you recommend, dictate? How does that work?
Yeah, so we give them a list of acceptable laundry detergents. I mean, if we're completely honest, it literally just comes off of the Consumer Reports top rated laundry detergents list. So we tell our clothesliners these are the ones that we're allowed to use to provide to our service. They've been vetted by, nationally ranked
Hmm.
consumer referral service, and so we use those things based on those recommendations.
Wonderful. All right. When you think back, you had shared a couple of things already. Was there anything else that stands out that was one of those early things that, boy, I would do differently, or I would have waited or done sooner? Is there something that comes to mind like that, Daniel, as you were first starting the business?
There isn't, there are a bunch of lessons that we learned along the way. A lot of them came out of ignorance, and so they were lessons that I probably would have made the same if I was in that same situation. But now that I'm, along the way and learned those lessons, I wouldn't make them again. Really, the biggest ones come around marketing and who you hire to do your marketing. Marketing is our biggest expenditure every single month, and we have made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of mistakes in our partnerships with different marketing firms. And so the biggest piece of advice I can give any entrepreneur out there is when you start getting into the paid marketing space, uh, be very careful with who you hire. And then if it's not working like immediately, do not be afraid to move on to the next group, because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of your own money. It's a lot of um, time that you're going to spend on it. And so you need to be able to make sure that you're 100% comfortable with what the direction they're going in.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm seeing that so much as more and more small business owners are outsourcing to some sort of digital marketing firm. Two things that you touch on there. It's a big mistake to sign up for any kind of a long-term agreement, because then you're not flexible.
Yep.
And secondly, what I find, Daniel, is most of them, not all, there are good ones, obviously, there are lots of good ones. They want to give you vanity metrics instead of the
Yes.
metrics that really matter. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, you have to measure everything, and they have to be key performance indicators that actually mean something to your bottom line. Like, if somebody's telling you about impressions or leads or whatever, if they don't contribute to your bottom line, if they're not measuring the things that matter to you, then you need to find somebody who will. And you just keep going until you find somebody that will measure things that matter to you.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. I always ask, what's next for Clotheslyne, but I think what's next is to continue to grow and to move into more and more markets across the United States.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. I mean, the marketplace game is a scale game. We need to be at a certain scale in order to get that kind of hockey stick growth in our revenue. And so we continue to identify markets where we think we would be a good match with our customers and with our service providers. And then once we find those markets, we open them up and we move into them quickly, and start developing relationships that way.
What keeps you up at night? What's something that you can share that concerns you?
I think probably our biggest fear, obviously, is a dissatisfied customer because their laundry, either got lost or ruined. And then on the flip side, we worry for our clothesliners that they receive orders that don't match what their expectation is, and we want to make sure that we support both of those people. And that's difficult because like I said, it's such an intimate subject that, you really have to walk a fine line when you're dealing with customers and how they view their laundry, and then the clothesliners, how they how they view the laundry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It reminds me of my daughter. This was new to her, and so it was a deli. She still kind of thinks that if we have somebody come in and clean the house, that it's our personal space. But one of the things that helped her is she didn't start with her undergarments. She started with
Yes.
the sheets, the towels, the
Yes.
t-shirts. Yeah, so it's just
Yes.
like no big deal.
That's what we tell
Um,
everybody, right? So many people are like, "Oh, I want to use the service," but they're nervous, and I tell them
mhm.
always, I'm like, "Send us your sheets and towels.
Exactly.
When they come back perfectly folded and
Oh my
smelling
gosh, yeah.
amazing, like the next time you'll be like, whatever, I'll
You're
send you
gonna get
sheets."
over that, whatever it is, embarrassing to it,
Yeah,
whatever, really quickly.
yeah,
It was just there when they went to pick up theirs, and it, like you said, it comes out of the bag all beautifully folded, goes straight into their drawers,
yeah,
done. Yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
it's like magic, really. I
it
mean,
really
my wife and
is.
I have a subscription, and every week it is magic when that laundry is perfectly folded
It's
on our front
amazing.
porch.
And the folding is such a key part of it, right? Because like for my wife, we just got back from this trip, so all the dirty clothes goes into the washer. That's the easy part, right? We have washers and
Yeah,
dryers, but then folding it and getting it
yeah.
back upstairs into this proper drawer, that takes a few more days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or it ends up on the laundry chair, I
Oh,
call it.
absolutely. Exactly right. Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this last question. Obviously, you're a serial entrepreneur. When somebody, as often I'm sure does, they come to you and say, "Hey, I have an idea to start a business." Doesn't matter what the business is. What do you typically tell them as the first things or first thing you want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that they need to do is research whether or not their thought, their idea is a real problem that other people have. And that's easy to do nowadays. You could throw that on Chat GPT and find out whether or not it's a real problem. But you have to make sure that it's a real life problem that other people have in their lives and that those people are willing to pay for a solution to that problem. Because a lot of times people have a great idea about a particular problem and nobody else really thinks it's a problem.
Yeah.
And so then you spend all this time building a company for something that nobody really wants. So make sure it's something that people really want.
Love that. And of course, then the MVP approach is about validating that somebody's willing to give you money for whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the flip side of what I just said is you have to talk to a lot of people because when I first came up with Clothesline, I brought it up to a group of my friends, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, I will never use that." Now she's also the same exact person who still will not take an Uber. Like she will only
Interesting.
get into a yellow cab and she will only stay at a hotel. I mean, and so if I had only spoken to her about my idea, then I would have come away from that discussion thinking, oh, well, this is a terrible idea. But then I talked to 50 other people and they all thought this was a good idea. And so, talk to a lot of people. Everybody's worried that somebody's going to steal your idea, but they're not.
I love that. Yeah.
Ask them about it, talk to as many people as you can. Everybody else has their own things to do besides steal your idea.
Exactly. And in any way, it's about execution. But yes, ideas need to breathe. And that's
Yeah.
how we validate. I get it. There might be some exception. You've invented something that's highly secretive. I understand. But for most of us, small business owners, that's not what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
However, it is a little bit more challenging back to the point of getting feedback when it's something that's revolutionizing a space. In other words, it had been done, but in very narrow markets, like you mentioned, like in the city of Manhattan. Outside of that, it was a foreign thing to people, right? Still
Yeah.
is, obviously.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And that is our biggest challenge, really, is
Yeah, you
that
have
this
to
is a
educate the
behavior.
consumer
Yeah.
on this is how it can be done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a behavioral change, and the people have been trained to do their own laundry by Whirlpool for the last 50 years. And so, one of the things we have to do is just make sure that people understand what we're offering them, and that's a value of time and effort and the ability to do other things than laundry all weekend long.
The website is, again, where do I go to learn more and if I'm in the market that's served, to sign up?
Yeah, so you can go to clothesline.com. It's our official website. It has all of our markets on there, so you can see whether or not we're available in your space. And if we're not, you can send us a note and we'll look into opening up there. Like I said, we're fast and nimble and we're ready to move.
And you've got an offer code, a special offer for those markets where you are in. Don't know if you got that code while we were talking, or if not, you'll send it to me and I'll put it on the show notes page. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I could offer it here. It's called End Laundry. You get 30% off your first order. And we'll also send it over to you and you can add it to the notes.
What was the code again?
End Laundry.
And like the word and
Yeah,
laundry
END.
altogether.
Correct.
Got it. Makes sense. And laundry and that chore of having to do your own laundry. All right. I'll have that on the show notes page as well at thehowabusiness.com for this episode. So take advantage of that. Again, if you happen to be in the ever growing markets that Clotheslyne is in. Remember, Clotheslyne is Lyne, not Line, Lyne when you go to clothesline.com. Anything else
Correct.
we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about the business that you wanted to share?
No, I think we got it all. I mean, obviously, I could talk about the business for days, but
Of
I
course
think
you
we're
can.
good.
Wonderful. Book recommendations. I'm always looking for a book recommendation. We were chatting about this. We started recording, and you have a very passionate book that you gift the most is what?
Yeah, so Moneyball by Michael Lewis is, in my mind, if you are an entrepreneur or thinking about starting a business or are a business owner, if you haven't read Moneyball, you're missing out. It's not a book about baseball. It's a book about transforming a 100-year-old business that had only done things one way for 100 years. And then you have this guy who comes along and he's like, I'm not going to do it like that anymore, and revolutionized an industry. And so if that doesn't motivate you with whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to create in the face of incredible odds and lots of doubt, then nothing will. So Moneyball is my go-to. I make all of my employees read it. I make my co-founder read it all the time because it really is a story about somebody who had to do something against all odds, and he did it, and he revolutionized the way that the game of baseball is played and managed and owned.
And talk about an environment, you had alluded to it in the corporate world, but talk about an environment that's steeped in tradition, and
Yeah.
this is just the way we've always done it or not done it, right?
Yep.
So there was all of that friction. I love Mike. I read this book. It's a wonderful recommendation. Thank you. Michael Lewis is, to me, so he's one of my favorite authors because all of this stuff, it reads so well. It's so engaging, right?
Yeah.
He writes these like a novel, and so you can't put it down, is what I have found with his books, including Moneyball.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. It's an easy read and it's so empowering.
Agreed. All right, we'll wrap it up. What's one thing you want us to take away from this conversation that we had? I mean, we've talked about serial entrepreneurship and what it takes. We touched on, in particular, because of your experience transitioning from the armed services, but really the heart of it was on what you've done to identify this opportunity to launch and now grow this business. What's one thing you want us to take away from what you shared?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I like people to know about Clothesline is that we are a people company. We're people on both sides of the marketplace. We're people who need a service done because they have a need for time in their lives, and we are people who are willing to provide that service as a real benefit to their lives. And, we really try to foster that and make sure that we are good stewards of both sides, and understanding that these are real life people with real life needs. And we're a business, but that business is really run by the people that are on our marketplace.
And tell us again where to go to learn more.
Yeah, so www.clotheslyne.com.
Wonderful. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today, being so transparent, sharing all of this inspirational and all of the knowledge that you've shared here today. I appreciate your time and being with me today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
This is Henry Lopez, and thanks for joining me on this episode of The How of Business. My guest today again is Daniel Feliciano. I release new episodes every Monday morning, and you can find the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, including the How of Business YouTube channel and at my website, thehowofbusiness.com. Don't forget to go and check out the website to see if they are currently in your area and take advantage of the special promotional code to try them out. Thanks for listening to this episode.
Thank you for listening to The How of Business. For more information about our coaching programs, online courses, show notes pages, links, and other resources, please visit thehowofbusiness.com.